Alrighty, everybody, Steve here. Welcome to The Varied Life. And this is a new video that we're doing. We're going to look at some 3D printers. Now, since I got into resin printing, kind of gotten the bug for that, and I got the Saturn III Ultra, and I've been cranking out some miniatures and things like that. It's been really fun. And now I want to get into regular 3D printing with FDM filaments and things like that. So there's always the Bamboos, there's always the Prusas, and some other well-known companies that make some really good products. But for me, I kind of have this thing where it's like buy once, cry once. In other words, I have been involved in enough activities and hobbies where money is being exchanged from one person to another, where if you go budget and you go cheap, then over time you upgrade and get an updated model. And then you go a little bit further and you get a more advanced model. And all of this requires money. And unfortunately, a lot of us are not made of money. And so over time, people end up spending a lot more money because they went cheap, and then they went intermediate, and then they got a little bit better. And then it was like, oh, well, I need to get the best. And they wasted a lot of money. So with that, buy once, cry once. Go big or go home. And if it takes a little bit of extra time to save that money, maybe you got to give plasma or whatever it is to save up enough, then do that rather than go cheap and have to put out a bunch of money for different upgrades or new models and so on and so forth. There will always be new models. We know that I've got into drones, and of course that's the whole thing, got into firearms, that's a whole thing there. And when it comes to 3D or resin printers, there will always be a newer model with new bells and whistles, and they want your money. So, but I figure as long as you go big and buy once, cry once, then that should last you a while until, many, many years down the road, and then you can think about upgrading to a newer model with more bells and whistles. The thing is now, kind of like with the 3D resin printers, it's got to the point of where we got 8K and we got 12K. And so I went with a 12K resin printer, and pretty much we're stuck at 12K. Now there is a 14K resin printer that came out, but when you talk about the difference between an 8K and a 12K, it's so minute that your human eye cannot tell the difference. So I was satisfied with getting a 12K. But how does this relate with 3D printers? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, I'm kind of new to 3D printing with filament printers. I've been watching a ton of videos and, with Uncle Jesse and all the different YouTubers out there, and gleaning all this information from these knowledgeable people. And what I've come down to was either the Bamboo X1 Carbon or the K1 Max from Creality or the FLSUN S1, which I've recently been apprised of being a Delta printer instead of a Core XY printer. And the stats and the numbers and the things that it can do is pretty exciting. And so I kind of shifted away from the X1 Carbine from Bamboo. I mean, it works, it's out of the box, but then you also see people who have problems with the AMS, and, a little expensive, but then, buy once, cry once. But I figured I wanted something that would be a little bit faster and have a larger print area. So I settled on the K1 Max and the FLSUN S1 as my considerations for a 3D printer. Now, as we speak, I'm sure Bamboo is coming out with a larger format, a large printer that will probably come out in the next year or shortly after I buy whatever printer I buy, because that's how it happens. But until then, we're going to take a look at this and look at the differences between these two printers. Now, here on this side here is the Creality K1 Max, and it is a very nice printer. Creality has had some good printers and reputation. They do fast printing and so on and so forth. And then over here is the FLSUN. Now, they came out with like the 400 and the Speed Racer, and like I said, I've only recently been apprised of their existence. And looking at their information, the FLSUN S1 has recently come out. It was in pre-order and it was pretty expensive. And I haven't seen any reviews on it. Supposedly they're going to come out with some reviews of people that have their hands on to that system, and we'll see how good it is and especially how fast. Again, these are two totally different printers. The Creality K1 Max is a Core XY printer, and then the FLSUN is a Delta printer, which is kind of this weird, it has these three arms that hold the print head and it moves around, and the build plate stays in one place. So, whereas with the Creality, what we see, this one? No, this one, is that the bed will move up and down, and then the gantry goes on the X and Y and whatever axes that those axes are. So we're going to compare these things a little bit and take a look at them to kind of solidify in my mind, or do a talk through comparison, and we'll see what this brings us. Now, when we talk about the K1 Max, it's a fast 3D printer, and we're going to go over some of that information. So, without further ado, here we are. Now, the K1 Max is very interesting. It comes from Creality, and again, what we end up seeing is the printer there. $899. It just dropped from $929, so you save $30. Get another PEI plate, and just call it $1,000. But the printing speed is 600 millimeters per second with a print volume of 300 cubed millimeters, which is great for a larger build area printer, which is really good because you can print helmets, larger pieces of armor, bigger characters or things, that whatever you want to print. And that's kind of the thing these days. People like the big build area printers to do one-piece helmets or armor or cosplay or trash cans even, or vases. Then you can do it on this thing. It has AI elements like a camera. It has LiDAR for automatic monitoring and print process, which is really neat. Handles temperatures up to 300 degrees Celsius. Includes an air purifier for a healthier workspace, which is nice. Upgraded Z-axis for precise positioning. Minimizing Z-banding and enhanced texture subtlety. Print jobs can be monitored and controlled via Wi-Fi or the Ethernet. So in other words, you could hook this up to your Wi-Fi network and have access, I'm assuming, over an app on your phone or online. Or you could hardwire it. And of course, I think there's also a USB plug to where you could go old school and plug in and do your prints that way if you're worried about somebody accessing your network. Hands-free, fully automated bed leveling and calibration, which is really nice. One-button automatic detection with instant reporting of any machine errors. Has LiDAR resolution, 1 micron. No assembly required, ready to use out of the box, which you've watched videos on the K1. It pretty much, you do some unpacking, take out some screws and some other stuff and plug it in, follow the prompts, and boom, you're printing a Benchy in no time. The K1 Max is pretty interesting. They also have the Essential Combo, which comes with some different nozzles and some hyperfilament. And then you have a Print and Protect combo, dry box, basic combo. You get the printer and the thing, the machine, whatever, the printer thing, and that's pretty much what we have. If we continue on with this, it has a speed of 600 millimeters per second, which is pretty amazing. Now, what I've noticed with a lot of 3D printing companies, whether they're resin or FDM printers and their printers, is that it's the need for speed. And so everybody's bragging about speed, but in realistic life, usually you're going to back down from that max speed to do your regular printing. And so 600 is the max, but you're going to back down, and probably, from what I've seen, 400 is kind of where you're going to be at. Again, with the more speed, there is a small decrease in quality as you get up to max speed, and it just is what it is. But it's a good benchmark or a number to know that it can get up to 600 millimeters per second, and apparently it has also the, I guess, like the computerized vibration anti-whatever AI thing that sets it up and is able to go fast and whatever. Anyway. Dual fans, it has all that, efficient space, so it's, it looks like a super nice piece of equipment, and that would, it just looks very, very nice. AI-assisted carefree printing, LiDAR camera, Creality OS, keeps an eye on the first print layer and scan the first layer on its own. It will pause printing and tell you immediately if something is going wrong. I've seen a lot more printers that are getting into LiDAR and using this as a prevention or verification of first layers. And yeah, that's kind of a good thing, because you don't want your first layer to be all screwed up and then you do a 20-hour print and you find out after the 20 hours and however many kilograms of filament that you've wasted on the first layer. And yeah, that's kind of a loss. Has an AI camera, which is an HD camera. Haven't found out the resolution of that. It just says HD, so I'm not sure what that is. Foreign object detection, this is still kind of in its infancy. There's people that have done videos with the K1 Max where it didn't recognize some certain things or certain colors, but that will get better over time with firmware upgrades. Failure detection, it'll get better over time. Real-time monitoring with an app, that's kind of cool. The system is a smart, has all the information there, 1.2 gigahertz, 1.27 gigawatts or whatever from, what was that movie, Back to the Future? Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Rigid frame, all of this stuff. Delicate texture without Z-banding, smooth surfaces, motion advance, hands-free auto leveling, which is really important. And we're also seeing auto leveling in resin printing as well. A quick heat bed, self-test with one tap, flexible build plate, the PEI plate, and then it also has an air purifier. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that we see with this, and it comes in at a price of $899, which is pretty nice. So what we end up doing, taking a look at it now, is the FLSUN S1. Now, I've recently been apprised of this as being a Delta printer. So it's not the Core XY type of printer that we saw with the K1 Max. It's a little bit different. So we're going to take a look at that. So let us continue on, and we'll take a look at the FLSUN S1. Now, the price that you see, $9,999, that is not the price. That price is there. They did pre-orders, which was around $2,000, maybe just over $2,000. And I guess they had a couple rounds of pre-orders that they're filling, and that's what we end up having now. But as soon as it comes online, and I've seen other online stores offering the FLSUN S1, ranging from $1,400 to $1,700, and so somewhere around there, I don't know. But let's take a look at some of this stuff. It talks about the first batch of pre-sales, more than 2,000 units sold worldwide, and then a second batch with 2,000 more units. Third batch will begin soon, shortly. The FLSUN S1 is an ultra-high-speed printer with a speed of 1,200 millimeters per second. That is insane. The acceleration is 40,000 millimeters per second and has a flow rate of 110 millimeters cubed per second. Now, they're going to tell you all the great things. Cooling fans up to 40,000 RPMs. Minimum cool down for a single layer is 1 second. Didn't see anything on that on the K1 Max. Closed loop motor, all metal frame. If you see the construction of past FLSUN products, they are pretty beefy. So yeah, and their dimensions, they're kind of a larger printer. It's focused on ultra high speed printing, an 80-watt ceramic heating element, dual gear drive direct extruder, ultra lightweight. Of course, it has to be lightweight because it's on like 3 arms, come down and hold that hot end assembly. And the lighter it is, the less momentum that you're going to get in movement, which allows them to move a little bit faster. Has a high flow hot end design with a max nozzle temp of 350 degrees Celsius. It also has LiDAR detection, but it's not just for that first layer print, which it does, but it also for accuracy and calibration, and also the flow calibration. So yeah, a couple of things there. It has auto leveling, which is really nice. That's a separate device that will go on. That's included. It has an AI camera intelligent detection for spaghetti detection in case you have a failed print, debris detection, real-time monitoring, and time-lapse photography, kind of similar to the K1 Max. Then we have filament detection or clog. So if you run out of filament or it's clogged, you will get that notification. Talking about printing benchies, yeah, it can do some fast benchies from their previous units. Is just kind of amazing. Now, some other things that come with this is a filament dry box. So in other words, people have filament and your print can run into problems if you have wet filament or the filament isn't dried out. I didn't know that that was a thing until recently, and a lot of people have built their own filament dry boxes where they store their filament. They'll have their printers inside an enclosure with anti-desiccant packs and, dehumidifiers and heaters and the whole 9 thing. So this is really nice in the fact that it does have filament dryer on its own. T&H monitoring, temperature and heat monitoring, which is really nice, and a filament quantity monitoring, that's kind of smart. I always notice that with a lot of 3D printers, is you have 3D printers and it'll have a sensor when the filament runs out, but not necessarily a monitoring system to see when you're getting close. So it would be really interesting to see how that comes into play. The build volume on this is a little bit different, but it's a little bit bigger than the K1 Max. So you have 320 by 430 millimeters. And basically what you have is a circular column that goes up to 433 millimeters, and it's 320 wide. So the diameter, wow, that's a very big build plate area, and definitely a lot bigger than what we saw with the K1 Max. Has smart zone heating for their build plate. You have an inner circle, an outer ring, and you see the temperatures that are there. That's going to be very interesting with a max bed temp of 120 degrees Celsius. 7 years in focus, and then you can go over some of the other dimensions and some of the other specifications that it has. But yeah, it is really quite an interesting 3D printer. So when I was looking for a 3D printer, I wanted something that would be able to do small things, which both of these can, but I also wanted something with a larger build area, and both of these can do that as well. The great thing about the K1 Max is it is a fast printer of 600 millimeters per second, but this one is a max speed of 1200 millimeters per second and 40,000 millimeters per second squared for acceleration. That is insane. So yeah, and the build plate 320 by 320 by 430 that's kind of a huge build plate area. So going over all of this, it'll be interesting to see what the final price comes out to be. And of course, being overseas here in Korea, because I retired here, it'll be a little bit more expensive than what you could get it for in the United States or other countries. Now, the question comes, let's do a little bit of a comparison here when it comes to these systems. The K1 Max has a dimension of 435 by 461 by 526 millimeters. The FLSUN is 550 by 595 by 1030 millimeters. I'm not really big on metric system, but to be honest with you, I was lazy and I didn't want to convert the millimeters to inches and feet or whatever. But just know that the K1 Max is big, but the FLSUN S1 is bigger. So it just depends on what you're looking for and if you have the space. The build volume that we see is for the K1 Max is 300 cubed, and then with the FLSUN is 320 by 430 millimeters. The nozzle type and temp for the K1 is hardened steel, and it can go up to 300 degrees Celsius. With the FLSUN S1, hardened steel, and it can go up to 350 degrees Celsius. The max bed temp for the K1 comes in at 60 degrees Celsius and 120 degrees Celsius for the S1. You can see the supported materials there, which is pretty much the same. The max speed for the K1 is 600 millimeters per second compared to the FLSUN, which is 1,200 millimeters per second. That is insane. And we know you're not going to be printing at 600 millimeters per second. We know that you're not going to be printing at 1,200 millimeters per second. But even if you go down a couple hundred, the FLSUN S1 is clearly the winner when it comes to speed and max acceleration. Max acceleration for the K1 Max is 20,000. The S1 is 40,000 millimeters per second. Max flow rate they're the same. The camera for the K1, it says it's HD quality. No resolution given, but it says HD quality. So whatever that means. On the FLSUN S1, it's 1920 by 1080. So it's a generic. Now, as far as the lighting, I've seen people say that the K1 Max, that the lighting inside the enclosure could be a little bit better because you basically only have one light. The FLSUN S1 has more lighting, and we'll see how that pans out. I know that there's a light on the inside, and there's also an LED light on the printhead itself. Both have LiDAR. The K1 Max has first layer accuracy and some detection things, and so does the S1 along with flow calibration. Both can operate on wired or Wi-Fi networks, and of course the regular USB. You're able to use that as well. Both of these systems have auto leveling, and the supported OS, as we see, is Windows and Mac OS. File format for the K1 Max is STL, OBJ, and AMF. Don't ask me what those mean because I'm new to all this. But the FLSUN S1 does STL, OBJ, AMF, and 3MF. Whatever that means. Now, when it comes down to price, here's what we see is some big differences. $899 for the K1 Max versus $1,400 to $1,800 for the FLSUN S1. The pre-order was like $2,175, which is kind of expensive. Usually they're a little bit less. I don't know. But that's the information I found on the interwebs. The big difference between this, let's just take, let's see, $1,400 minus $899. So the difference is going to be $500. So if you're looking for a 3D printer and you're trying to compare a fast printer with a large build area like the K1 Max versus the FLSUN S1, you need to ask yourself and say, okay, well, is it worth that $500 to get the K1 or the S1 versus the K1 Max? I don't know. It depends on what you want to do. But for me, I would rather buy once, cry once than kind of go half-assed and then later have buyer's remorse and say, well, I should have bought the bigger and better and more expensive unit. When I buy something, I want it to last for a long period of time, so I want a high-quality machine. And obviously, the Creality K series has been pretty popular in the past and is a good performer. The FLSUN, I've seen videos on their Speed Racer and their 400, and it is just amazing at the speeds that they have in their older models. So that might even be a consideration. So for example, if we go and we look at their, oh, there it is. Matter of fact, let's just bring this. What are we doing? I lost you. Oh, there you are. Let's go back to here, and what we'll end up doing is taking a look at this and see if we can take a look at their products of their store and the older models of the FLSUN. So there's the S1, there's the T1, which is kind of like the S1's little brother, but still really fast, a little bit less expensive. Then the other printers they have are like the V400 or the Super Racer from $349 to $699, basically $700. Their FLSUN QQ S Pro is $169. The Q5 is $150. So let's take a look at the FLSUN V400 and look at some of the stats on that. That used to be $849, and now it's $600 or $699, basically $700. 600 millimeters high print speed, 300 by 300 by 410 build volume, dual drive extruder, all metal construction, clipper, iPad. All some interesting things there. And yeah, I mean, you look at the gear and the materials that they use in it, but you know, for $700, that's pretty good when you take a look versus the K1 Max, which gets up to a 600 millimeter print speed, and this also does 600 millimeter print speed. So if you're looking and your main criteria is speed alone, then maybe the FLSUN V400 is the way to go, because you get a little bit of a bigger build area versus the K1 Max. Again, the K1 Max had a build area of 300. The FLSUN V400 is 300 by 300 by 410. So yeah, just so many options out there. It's hard to come to a true winner when it comes to 3D printers and all this stuff. And really, which of these is the winner? In my mind, I like the aesthetics of both of them. When it comes down to speed, obviously the S1 is the winner. When it comes down to build area, obviously the S1 is the winner there. By the way, it's winter here in Korea, and I was reading a bunch of stuff on. So that's why I'm confusing my winters and winter words. So forgive me for that. But for everything else involved, I'm really torn, but I'm leaning towards the S1 as something that I would purchase. Now, again, the only difference that I would see is the price of being around $1,400 on the low end is what I found online for the S1. That was the only place I saw was $1,400. Other places had like $1,500, $1,700, $1,800. So is that $500, $600, $700 difference? Is that worth the price? I don't know. But if you buy once, cry once, then that $500 might be worth spending. But then again, you know that in the following year, there's going to be some other printer out there that's going to be bigger, faster, stronger, quicker prints with, glass or, some strange material, new material. It's going to be out there with multi-filaments. I mean, that comes into play as well. Is there going to be an AMS for either of these systems or both? Or I don't know. It's just really interesting. And there's just so many options out there. But in this video, what I want to do is highlight these these printers that I'm considering, the Creality K1 Max or the FLSUN S1, and that $500 difference. I mean, if they were within $200 or $300, I would automatically just say the S1 hands down. But because it's $500, now it's like, okay, that gives me a little bit of pause. But still, maybe I got to go give plasma a little bit, give a few pints here and there to make up that difference, and then boom, I get the S1. But then again, there's also other considerations. What about customer support? What is the customer support for the K1 Max versus FLSUN? I haven't really been enough into 3D printing to know, or have seen people's experience to know which one is better, or if they're the same, or if they're both lacking when it comes to customer service. I just don't know. So if you know, put that in the comment section down below. There's also the support for the app. How does the app run with the K1 Max versus the S1? How user-friendly are they? I've seen setup videos with the K1 Max from multiple people. Seems pretty straightforward, similar to Bamboo. Yeah, there might have been, some minor problems here and there. Firmware upgrade, boom, you're good to go. But generally, it comes out of the box, you set it up, and you're printing in no time. With the S1, because I haven't seen any reviews of it, I just don't know. So that's what's causing me to pause and make a final decision. So we're going to have to wait until we see some reviews on the S1 to see how the setup is and how fast you can get to the first prints. I did watch some videos on the V400 where people did an unboxing and setting it up, and they encountered some problems, but that was some older videos. So I'm hoping and guessing that the people at FLSUN have made some upgrades to their S1 so that people don't run into those same problems that they had with the V400. So yeah, and the great thing about 3D printing is that it's all driven by the customers like you and me. And for the more experienced people, they say, hey, this is what we like, this is what we need, this is what would make sense. And then these companies take that information and they improve upon their products. And then, the next thing you know, it's like you have 2 new versions of 3D printers to choose from. And that's just 2 companies. Then there's Bamboo, and then there's this and that, and all other kinds of companies. And they're all competing and trying to bring the best product to market. And that's the joy of capitalism and having this competitive arena of which we're in when it comes to 3D printing. So for right now, I'm leaning towards the S1. But since I haven't seen any reviews, which usually before you see a release, a full public release of a printer, you will have printers set out to influencers and people like Uncle Jesse and so on and so forth, Vogman. They will send those printers out to people. They will play with them. They'll evaluate them. And then they will drop those videos showing the unboxing, the setup, and the first prints, and all the stuff that they do, so people can say, hey, this is really good. They've made a lot of improvements. That's the hook that's got me, so I'm going to buy this printer. Unfortunately, FLSUN, I haven't found any videos. Now, I did contact them and ask them, actually, it was on one of their videos. They have like short 40 or 50-second videos, and I put in there, hey, we need to see an unboxing. We need to see somebody with hands-on with this, even if it's just from people at FLSUN, of saying, hey, this is the S1 or this is the T1, and these are the specifications, and these are the things that make this printer stand out amongst all the other printers, and these are the problems that it solves. That's what FLSUN needs. And then shortly after that, the next day, matter of fact, I saw a reply to my comment on one of their videos, and they said, yeah, we're heading in that direction. You're going to see some videos. So I'm like, okay, like and subscribe. I can't wait. That notification bell, all. I really want to see when people review the S1 and or the T1 from FLSUN. So anyway, if you have more experience with FDM printers, with the K1 Max or some of the FLSUN products than their previous printers, put that in the comment section down below, because I would really like to know your experience and what you think about these 2 printers. And are there other printers out there that I should be looking at, that should be in the running, that I should consider besides the K1 Max and the S1? Put that in the comment section down below as well. And we'll see you on the next video. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, The Buried Life, where I do some hobby stuff and resin printing and going to be FDM printing eventually. I also retired in Korea, so I have some videos on that and our our things that we did to retire overseas. That's very interesting. And then I got some fitness stuff on there. So it's kind of a mishmash of information, but would really appreciate the like and subscribe regardless. So with that being said, hey, thanks for watching. Peace, and we'll see you on the next video. Alrighty, there it is. We finished that up.